Surgeons of Reddit, what is the most fucked up thing seen in someone's body? Healthcare worker here. Saw an 80+ years old man with a Tylenol bottle up his ass. He swore he didn't know how it got there. Obligatory not a surgeon, but I read a news article about a surgeon who found someone's initials cauterized into a patient's organ. Turns out it was a surgeon who had done a previous surgery and felt the need to leave his mark on a patient. I believe he lost his medical license over it. I am not a surgeon, but I knew a girl who would clean up after surgeries. One of the funniest stories I ever heard. Doctor, excuse me sir, so we found the blockage in your urethra. Can you think of any reason why a peanut would be in there? Patient, ha ha ha, oh damn, well my wife and I play a game called Feed the Elephant. And what happens is she puts a peanut M&M inside my dick and she then sucks them out. Apparently one must have gotten stuck. So the chocolate on the M&M melted off and the peanut stayed. So M&Ms melt in your dick and not in your hands apparently. My dad used to work at a psych ward and a severely schizophrenic man got a hold of a pen and jammed it down his urethra. No one realized until the thing had calcified and he was going into organ failure. My dad doesn't know what happened to him, but I'm sure that must have been one gruesome surgery. I work with a few guys that used to work at the local prison, and they said they had an inmate do something similar, except it had only been up there 3 days. He said he was having some issues but wouldn't say. His bunkmate told on him, so they ushered him into the infirmary, pulled his pants down, and the nurse said on the count of 3 I'm going to pull this out, and went 1, pull, and yanked it out, and there was nothing but blood and pus and urine all coming out at once like a stopped up water hose. The inmate let out just a huge sigh of relief and sounded like he was having the best day of his life in that moment. Not a surgeon. Knew someone who ate spoons. Just swallowed them and had surgery to remove them repeatedly. Batteries too. Also had put pen lids in his urethra, but those were more easily removed. Worked in a children's hospital years ago. Had one kid come in who would stick anything he could up his urethra, because that was how his mom would punish him when she had custody of him. The strangest though was a young girl who ate rocks. She ate so many her bowels became backed up. She was the whitest white I had ever seen. We had doctors come from different parts of the hospital just to catch a glimpse, because some said it would be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'm a general surgeon. I once took a power line insulator out of a man's rectum. The thing was conical with the base being approximately 11 centimeters in diameter. We were just about to call an ortho in to break his pelvis to get it out when it finally broke free. Psych nurse here. I've had patients swallow batteries, razors, rocks, underwire from a bra, insert staples and paper clips under their skin in their forearms. I once had a kid insert an entire pencil under the skin in her forearm. Surprisingly, the only object that actually had to be surgically removed was the kid who shoved the paper clips under her skin in her arm. She developed a nasty infection from it and they were very deep. The kids who swallowed all the objects passed them naturally, with the help of fiber supplements and Miralax. I talked to a anesthetist one time who went on about stuff found up people's butts. He described one man in particular who was a regular, used things like kids' toys, light bulbs, etc., and swore up and down that this guy even attempted, and partially succeed, to shove a full-sized fire extinguisher in his ass. That was the day the surgical staff pulled their money and bought him a set of butt plugs. They didn't see him again after. Okay, obligatory not a surgeon, but I was there. So it's a real toss-up. 1. 14-inch burpless cucumber. The person drove across 3 states to have it removed from his colon. He did get back home in time for the Sunday morning service. 2. 8 feet of speaker wire up the urethra and into the bladder. I can't look at monster cable without thinking about it and the knot. 3. Thousands of ascariasis causing bowel obstruction. Don't look it up, just trust me. 4. Hundreds of needles, pins, paper clips, and pieces of wire under a child's skin. Nobody knew how they got there. 5. Entire 8-inch chef's knife via 1.5. Knife only visible on X-ray. 6. Huge T. Gandhi cyst in a brain. Litter boxes are death traps. 7. 6-foot-long chain link post through the chest after a 4-wheeler accident. He did have his helmet on though. 8. A dozen glass teardrop pendants from an antique chandelier in the stomach of a child. 9. A cherry pit from the sinus of a man that stuck it up his nose 40 years earlier. Surprisingly, his lifelong problem with right-side sinus drainage resolved. 10. A softball-sized bezoar made of hair and fingernails. Don't ask how it smelled. Well, I found 10 fascinating cases. The patient said that approximately 4 hours earlier he and his boyfriend had been fooling around. After stirring a batch of concrete mix, the patient laid on his back with his feet against the wall at a 45 degrees angle while his boyfriend poured the mixture through a funnel into his rectum. After the concrete mass hardened, it became so painful that he sought medical care. Yeah, no. If the concrete mix is coming out at any time while we're fooling around, that's gonna be a pass from me, dog. I never thought to put pouring concrete into my ass on my hard limits list, but here we are. I'm not a surgeon, but the one I know works in emergency and is always sending me videos of things he pulls out of guys' asses: dildos, bottles, cans, spoons, dolls. Another one for the ass box. My mom is a nurse and she had a patient come in with a vibrator that had been stuck in their rear for 5 days. He had been unable to have a bowel movement for the entire period of time it was stuck inside of him, and needless to say, at that point they couldn't just pull it out. Dude was in excruciating pain. And no, he never admitted to sticking it up there. The scans didn't show nearly how extensive the necrosis in his bowel was. Their intention was to pull the vibrator out and explore the damage with the scope before deciding the best method of treatment for the necrotic bowel. Long story short, as they pulled the vibrator out, it began to perforate the bowel because it was weak and dying. Patient's body began filling with rotting bowel excrement, and they had to open his belly to explore and clean him out so he didn't go into sepsis. My mom came home in a pair of hospital scrubs and a new pair of shoes that day, because when they opened his belly it exploded out everywhere. Her shoes, her non-hospital scrubs, her hair, the surgeon's clothes/shoes/hair. She said the smell was worse than the time an extremely overweight woman came in with stomach pains and she had unknowingly been pregnant and miscarried, yet the fetus stayed inside rotting. She took a long shower that night. Vibrator dude lives on, but with short bowel syndrome. I'm sure he will never use a sex toy without a wide base again in his life. In fact, that whole experience may have turned him off of prostate stimulation altogether. Not a surgeon but a paramedic. I took a roofer into the hospital after he fell off the roof on a hot day towards the end of the day. Heard a buzzing the entire time, had no idea what was going on. They took him straight to X-ray when we got there and he had a massive vibrating butt plug in. My doctor took an X-ray of my feet and was like, wow. Wow. He then Googled foot X-ray to show me what the bones are supposed to look like. He then called in his nurse, explained she was in school and is it okay if she looks at them? Yes, of course. And she was like, you walked in here? Yep. Walked out too. Honestly, it was liberating. Yes. My feet hurt. I am not a whiner. It is not just everyday pain that everyone has. My feet are, in fact, super jacked. I used to work in retail, and while speaking to an ambulance driver/paramedic, UK, I asked him a similar question and he said he got called out to a house, specifically the bathroom. When he arrived, the wife answered and had no idea what was going on. He made his way to the bathroom and the husband was in there with a toilet brush stuck up his arse. The bristles end. Apparently he shoved it in and the bristles opened and didn't want to come back out. My aunt and uncle both work in the OR and the one that kills them is a Parmesan shaker, like the kind you would see at a pizza joint. Dude said he fell on it. I've also heard of a turtle. I'm not a surgeon, but I heard about a surgeon who pulled a sturgeon, not a surgeon, out of a patient's butt. I know of a case where someone stuck a frozen trout up their ass. It started to unfreeze, and the fin started to come out, so that trout was completely stuck. He had to get surgery to get it out. When EMS was done taking him to the hospital, they laughed their asses off.